President Trump plans to flood the beef market with beef from Argentina to help combat the high beef prices here in the United States. Let me tell you why that is a bad idea. For one, the first time in decades, the farmer and rancher is able to finally turn a decent profit and put that money back into their farm and ranch and help keep their ranches alive. Second, if we cheapen American beef, we're going to fall back into the same trend that we were 4, 5, 6 years ago, where we're losing 10 to 20,000 American ranchers every single year. Why would somebody try to continue on a ranch or pass it down to their kids? Why would their kids want to run a ranch that's not even able to make a decent living? And third, a lot of these people are the ones that voted for you. What happened to the America First policy, taking care of the American ranchers and the American people first before anybody else? Now, I'm not saying imports are bad, but flooding the market and making it worse for the American ranchers is not the way to go about this. How do we get the cost of beef down? We got to get the cost of production down for the American ranchers.
It's getting loud again out in America's heartland. And this time, the anger isn't coming from liberal cities or college towns. It's coming from the red states, from the wide open plains where the MAGA flags fly high, and from the very people who once saw Donald Trump as the voice of rural America. The cause? Beef. As if we have somehow naively just forgotten what happened with soy. Or, more specifically, Trump's new proposal to import more beef from Argentina as a way to bring down grocery store prices. Something Americans aren't buying anytime soon.
Cattle and ranchers are pissed off because we're about to import beef. Beef that's going to get into cargo boats, ship that shit throughout the ocean, put it in trucks, drive those trucks thousands of miles on land, finally get to grocery stores, and get sold for cheaper than beef that is literally down the block. Now, the question I have for you cattle ranchers, why is that? Explain this psychological thing, math, to me. Why is it beef that's got to cross through continent? It's much cheaper than a beef that you produce right here down the block. As a consumer, I can almost certainly tell you this. This is a monopoly. It happens with shortage in eggs. Manufacturer crisis drives the prices to almost $12, $14, $15 a dozen. Now it's back to $4 or $5 a dozen. Beef, we're seeing the same fucking thing. A 3 steaks at a Costco, good amount of meat, will cost you about $110. The fuck I used to buy a piece for $10, $14 from Mariano's. Now I gotta pay 3 times that rate, and you want me to sympathize with you?
Now, on the surface, that sounds like a smart move. American families are paying record prices for meat, with beef prices up nearly 30% since 2020 and hitting record highs in 2025, according to USDA data. The average cost of a pound of ground beef now hovers around $6.50, compared to under $5 just a few years ago. But here's the catch. Those savings at the store could mean real pain back on the ranch. American cattle ranchers, especially the small and mid-sized producers, are fuming. They see this as a slap in the face. After all, the U.S. cattle herd has already shrunk to its smallest size in nearly 75 years, sitting at about 94.2 million head as of mid-2025. Years of droughts, rising feed costs, and thin profit margins have left many ranchers hanging by a thread. Here is the catch.
You want to know what blows my mind? The fact that we live in a country that used to feed the world, and now we're importing beef from Argentina just to keep up with demand. And then you got diabolical supervillains like Bill Gates trying to force-feed everybody his own weird lab-grown petri dish meat. None of this should be considered progress. This is intentional collapse. Look, I'm a cattle rancher. I live this life every damn day, and I can tell you firsthand, this doesn't happen by accident. The policies that gutted American ranching, they weren't just bad decisions. They were strategic. If you haven't noticed, and I don't really expect that you have, well, nearly 700,000 independent cattle ranches have vanished since the 1970s. You think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's consolidation. It's control. It's the same story playing out across every American industry. Take the heart out of rural America, replace it with corporate supply chains, and then pretend it's about efficiency. Meanwhile, you're paying higher prices for beef that's been shipped halfway across the planet, while local ranchers, they're shutting their gates for good. Tell me how that makes sense. It's not about supply and demand. It's about making you dependent. If we can't feed ourselves, we're not free, and they know that. You don't have to be a rancher to understand what's going on here. This is a national security emergency, period. Because when your food supply is outsourced, your future is held hostage. Your children's future is held hostage. And when ranches die, the town dies. The feed stores close. In fact, one just happened to close right here where I live. The mechanics pack up, the schools close down, the families move away, the culture disappears, because you can't replace ranches with imported beef and expect to still have a backbone as a nation. It doesn't work like that. I own Fat Cow Ranch here in Wyoming, okay? We do things the way that they're supposed to be done. No shortcuts, no antibiotics, no chemicals, no fake labels, just American beef raised by American hands on American soil. And I'll give it to you straight. Rebuilding this industry isn't going to come from politicians. It's going to come from men and women who refuse to let this country become dependent on anyone but itself. We need producers again. People who actually build, who raise, who produce something of value. That's how a nation stays strong. And that's what's missing right now. Pride in production. We used to celebrate the people who built this country. Now we ignore them, we regulate them, and we replace them with imported product. It's not right. But that ends when we start paying attention again. When we start choosing American beef. When we start choosing local over corporate. When we start giving a damn about where our food comes from and who's putting it on our tables. Because this isn't just about ranching. It's about sovereignty. And if we don't reclaim it now, there won't be anything left to protect.
And now, at the very moment when U.S. ranchers were finally starting to recover, with cash receipts from cattle projected to rise 16% this year to nearly $130 billion, the idea of bringing in cheap foreign beef feels like betrayal, especially coming from the man who built his base on America first. The juice here is absolutely much for real. So before we even go far, take a second to support the channel, like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share it around. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you're always in the loop.
Unfortunately, we have an administration that thinks that they need to lower the price of beef. President Trump on Friday actually made a statement that said we should lower the price of beef, and ultimately that's lowering the price of cattle. That's not something we need to do. I just want our members to know that Nebraska Farm Bureau is adamantly opposed to anything that would artificially lower the price of beef. We have worked hard to get our cattle market where it is. It's a supply and demand issue right now. But quite frankly, we need this bright spot here in Nebraska. So I have communicated with all of our federal delegation and let them know that we are opposed to any move that would artificially lower the price of beef cattle. They have worked that up to the leadership already today. And so stay tuned as we kind of follow this story. Hopefully we can get this tamped down. But just want to make sure that you know that I'm doing everything that I can as your president of Nebraska Farm Bureau to ensure that our beef sector here in Nebraska and the country continues to thrive. Until next time.
Across MAGA country, from Texas and Kansas to South Dakota and Wyoming, there's a sense of disbelief. These are the same communities that voted overwhelmingly for Trump, that showed up at rallies in cowboy hats and work boots, that saw him as one of their own. And yet, the beef import plan is now testing that loyalty. Critics say importing beef won't even make a real dent in grocery prices. Argentine beef currently makes up just 2% of U.S. imports. Even if those imports quadrupled, it wouldn't offset the bigger issues, like supply shortages, high transportation costs, and market consolidation by big meatpacking companies. So while Trump insists this move could lower prices for consumers, ranchers argue it'll only line the pockets of corporations while pushing family farms closer to extinction. It's not just about economics. It's about identity. Who gets to feed America, and who profits from it?
Tucker, did you hear what Trump said? He's going to start importing beef from Argentina. This is the end, man.
Well, Trump says a lot of things. Let's just take a deep breath before we decide to sell the ranch.
You not mad? That's foreign beef, Tucker. Foreign!
Yeah, but beef from Argentina is normally pretty lean. Not like the marbled, high-quality beef that we raise here in the U.S. People are still going to want that ribeye that melts in your mouth.
Still, we shouldn't be importing beef.
Yeah, hate to break it to you, bud, but we already do. We import from Australia, Brazil, Argentina, you name it. It's mostly lean trim for hamburger, which is not exactly replacing U.S. beef.
So you're telling me I got worked up for nothing?
Well, at least you burned some calories. That's more than beef from Argentina's got. Now, do I want to import a lot of their beef? No. Let's saddle up. Let's get to work.
Wait, I don't even have my horse.
In the end, this is shaping up to be one of the most ironic twists in MAGA politics. A populist movement now facing a revolt from its own backbone, the farmers and ranchers who helped build it. So what do you think? Is this a smart economic move or a betrayal of the American producer? Drop your take in the comments. I want to hear from you. And while you're there, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more deep dives into stories shaking America's heartland.